Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about a very different weapon that we haven't really covered yet. It's one of the big three. That's right. It's one of the initial starter weapons from the game. I'm sure that you guys would remember them. There's the Braton, the Braton, and the Paris. The Braton is the one we're talking about today. It is probably the underdog of starter weapons. There's a couple of other starter weapons, but I'm talking about specifically the ones with rifle mods and that sort of thing. But boy, howdy, is it a pretty fun weapon nonetheless. I know that it is the underdog. I know that the Paris and the Braton are arguably better, but I quite enjoy the Braton a lot. With that in mind, let's check out the build and just see what we can do with it. So we do have the Incarnon. The Incarnon gives us radial damage, basically giving us an AoE. It's really, really nice. We've got access to more bonus damage when we are in our radial form, as well as in our base form. We also get some ammo efficiency, which is fantastic too, while we're in our radial form, which is nice. Coming up next, we have 60% accuracy and negative 60% weapon recoil. This is just a massive quality of life that I absolutely love putting on this weapon. And then last but not least, we have, of course, more crit chance and crit damage. This turns it into a hybrid weapon beyond any imagine. The hybrid weapons are always one of the best weapons you can possibly obtain. Anything with hybrid really, really helps you just ramp up damage super quickly, because not only are you getting statuses like viral and heat on there, but you're also getting critical damage to really bump those numbers up even further. Super, super handy, super nice, really enjoy it, and definitely something to look out for. Let's go into the upgrades section and take a look at the build. Now, this build is by no means the best, most perfect build, and I will explain why in just a second. This has primary deadhead for starters. It is only rank 3. This can go higher. I am unable to go higher just yet because I don't have primary deadhead fully available to me, and that's fine. I will get there eventually. But nevertheless, we have galvanized mods on here, galvanized aptitude and chamber. As always, if you don't know, these are just the best multi-shot and status / damage mod in the game. They're fantastic for these weapons, right? They're going to do fantastic no matter what weapon you put them on that can take them. You will always want these. Multi-shot is insane, damage multiplier, and the galvanized aptitude gives you so much status chance, as well as plenty more damage with that as well. We've got viral in the form of malignant force and rhyme rounds. This brings us up to a whopping 78% status chance when you combine it with aptitude, which is ridiculously high. If you're a fan of the channel or have seen some of the previous videos, then you will know that I'm always going to put amalgam serration on there as well, being a bunch of extra damage, but more importantly, that sprint speed, which is something that is a guilty pleasure of mine for sure. Following up, we have critical delay and vital sense for the crit bonus, getting us to 90 crit and 6 multiplier. And then last but not least, we have hunter munitions. Now, hunter munitions is something that I am not the biggest fan of anymore. I used to, back in the day, love hunter munition builds with viral, but now viral / builds feel a little bit dated, and I think that you could definitely change this build quite easily to make it a little bit better. And the way by that, I definitely don't just mean as in get rid of hunter munitions and then move on with life. I mean, there's plenty of options here. Like there is so many options here to change this, right? We can get rid of hunter munitions, put on hellfire rounds instead of hunter munitions. We're using this former slot right here because we're only on 4 former. That would give us viral heat, giving us plenty of extra damage. Then we could go, if we wanted to go further, we could even instead replace hunter munitions with primed shred. Now, primed shred does really affect the base mode of this gun a lot, but it doesn't really affect the radial damage a lot. So instead, we could do something a bit different, and we could go with, for example, vigilante fervor, or we could go with vile acceleration even, and get even more attack speed here instead if we wanted to for our Incarnon form. Another alternative that we could do is we could replace Hunter Munitions here with the new Magnetic mod. The new Magnetic mod is really, really handy and a really, really good option here as well, because then we get Viral Magnetic. The Viral still going to do its job. The Magnetic, though, as a sub option, will still give us plenty of damage against those damn Eximus units that are really frustrating to deal with. So a lot of different options. It also, I think, gives us critical damage as well. I'm not sure, I don't quite have that mod yet, but 100% something that I would recommend. If you have those options available to you, you do not need to run Hunter Munitions. You might need to put one more former on the build, but I think it is totally worth it. With that in mind, though, it is a high investment weapon, but let's give you a go at what it can really do in some Steel Path Mott Survival, as always. A fantastic option. So let's do it. I think that this is just a better choice of example to show, because again, Steel Path Mott Survival just seems to be a great practice run. We've got Inneros, so we're not going to get any benefits for playing this character for the weapon's damage, so it'll be a very good baseline. Let's get our armor up real quick. Now, the one downside that I have about the Braton is its fire speed is quite low. And again, like I said, you could easily cut out Hunter Munitions to increase your fire rate, and it would be perfectly fine. As you can see, super slow fire rate. We've now got the Incarnon form already, and it does rip through things, but again, it is quite slow. The slash procs are hitting 100k though, at sometimes with those orange crits, which is cool. You got some really fun damage numbers coming out. 50k on some of them. As you can see, it definitely is no slouch in terms of the damage department. It's just not necessarily the fastest firing weapon in the world. If we have a quick run through, maybe we can group some enemies up using our Inneros to show what it would be like if we had a grouping frame. The other option as well that you can do, and this would greatly benefit the Braton Prime, is get Arcanes. There is some Arcanes on your Warframe that you can select that will give us a crap load of fire rate for your primary weapons, which can be a genuinely really viable way of benefiting this weapon without committing too much in the way of a buff frame. For example, you might be playing Jade purely as a support rather than as a damage dealer for your team, and you're not going to be in your flying state all that much. If that's the case, you know, throw on maybe like an Arcane Fury or something like that to increase the fire speed of your primary weapons. Stuff like that could be really fun. But yeah, just overall, something to keep in mind. This gun is meant to be played with grouping up frames. Fantastic with something like an Inneros or a Mag as well, because you're going to do so much more radial damage that way. Definitely a really fun time. The standard performance of the weapon is still pretty decent. We have decent damage coming out of it. And again, because the radial damage is already heat related, you don't actually need to mod heat onto the weapon unless you are worried that you're going to be more or less sitting in this form a little bit more often than you would be liking. You know, the base form does lack a little bit of damage thanks to the not having heat, but it's nothing too stressful and nothing to really worry about. Let's group some people up again. Easy kills. Easy kills. Vor's trying to murder us. I don't even care about it. We ignore it. And we just keep going. But as you can see, it does plenty of damage, and that's the main thing, right? You want to make sure it's clearing the content that you need it to, and it's definitely not something that is as bad as people might let on. I know a lot of people don't really like this weapon and think it's kind of mediocre just because of the fact that the fire rate is so slow. There are so many ways though to solve that problem. Its performance against Xmas units is perfectly serviceable as well, but it could definitely go higher again with a magnetic mod. The other thing as well that you have to consider too is any weapons that feel a bit more mediocre in certain cases like this are usually not that bad. It's just a matter of you're not necessarily running the right Warframe for it. A good example would be the radial damage on the Gorgon's Incarnon form is super cool, but it does suffer from the fact that it doesn't really do a lot unless you can group them up with something like a mag or an Interrupts. Whereas something like the Burst On doesn't require anything like that and just performs well on any frame really easily. Another example is the Axe Stiletto, who performs fantastic as a really solid damage dealer with a lot of prep in terms of status effects, right? You can get a lot of status effects prepped onto your enemy. It's a great weapon for a caster frame that's perhaps using Raw or has its own damage buff like Saren, or even some critical bonuses like Gaia. There are so many options, and they really do help pack a load of punch. I don't know where Mr. Misery is. There he is. Never mind, I found him.
Our operative is making progress.
I can't quite catch the guy. He's just in a sea of numbers at this point, and I'm completely incapable of killing him. There we go. We got a... But there you go. There's a good example of what you can expect to see when you're playing this weapon. It is a lot of fun. Definitely check it out. Give it some love. I know that some people like to skip over weapons like this, but it genuinely can become an absolute behemoth of a weapon if you give it the attention it deserves. The other thing as well, please, if you like the content, if you want to see more weapon guides, weapon reviews, and other fun stuff like that, by all means, please do let me know so I can give you more content and fun stuff like that in the future. There is a couple of other things going up on the channel regularly as well, so if you like to see me play other games, I've got a series that I'm doing right now where I'm playing through Borderlands 1 all the way through to 3 while we prep for Borderlands 4. I've got a Halo series going on where we're going to be playing some Cursed Halo coming up very soon, as well as some Halo Wars very soon, so definitely check out that. Plenty of content on the YouTube channel, and I'm also live every single day over on twitch.tv. I usually stream War Thunder. It's a really fun tank game. It's free to play and a great time. So if you have the time to come support me and want to give me some love, please do come hang out, have a chat, and say hello. Nevertheless, I hope that you enjoyed the content, and I will see you next time. Bye!